broadcast for shooters, hunters, and gun enthusiasts. This is the Firearms Radio Network. The bandwidth for this episode of the AR-15 podcast is sponsored by Patriot Patch Company. PatriotPatch.co.
Welcome to the AR-15 podcast. This is the podcast about your favorite black rifle. This show is for you. Whether you're building your first AR or you've been building ARs for years, there is something we can all do to take our black rifle to the next level.
You make this show possible by clicking through our Brownells and Amazon affiliate links. The next time you order online, go to AR15podcast.com and click through our Brownells and Amazon affiliate links. It doesn't cost you anything extra, and a small portion of your sale goes to supporting pro-gun radio like the AR-15 podcast.
Hello, everybody. We're back tonight with another episode of the podcast. We're up to number 146 tonight, and in this episode, we're going to be talking about discrete carry options for the AR. JW, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing all right. I'm real busy with work. I actually was on the road for about 9 hours today. I got to catch up with the last couple shows that you and JD did. So I'm a little jealous of him and his Tavor that he gets to take out to the desert all the time.
Well, can you believe that crazy deal?
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like he squeezed him out of sales tax too.
You gotta like that.
Yeah. I'd love to take a look at the shop they've got out there that they put together the AKs in. I think it's Rifle Dynamics.
Mm-hmm. I think that would be an awesome visit.
Yeah, I know they did a party at SHOT last year. So maybe they'll do that again this coming year.
Yeah, maybe we can even get James to secure an invite.
There you go.
Well, so we want to let you know that we are still continuing our giveaways for the Vortex Spitfire 3-Power Prism Scope. And that giveaway is for one lucky veteran. So we want to let you know that you can enter a veteran that you know in the contest, and we will draw a name of said veteran on November 11th and announce on the following podcast who the winner is, and we'll announce it on Facebook so somebody can get queued up to get themselves into a nice Vortex. And I understand.
And I have started the process of pulling out of my cold hands. It's off the rifle. It's sitting there on my reloading bench with a box next to it, ready to get packed up and shipped out. So I think it's actually going to leave the house.
There's a 12-step program. I can get you hard.
Yep.
So we also are going to be giving away the Vortex Spitfire 1-Power Prism Scope that Vortex was kind enough to send our way for just that purpose to a lucky first responder. So we want to let you know that we still have all those up on Facebook, and we're getting our newest junior co-host. I guess now we have co-host, senior co-host, and a junior co-host. It's like a little stratification there. But James is going to be getting all of those lined up so you guys can get a loved one or someone who you really respect and admire for the work they do in the drawing, so we can put them up for a nice prism scope. So once again, veterans on November 11th, and we'll be giving thanks to our first responders on Thanksgiving Day. So we'll let you guys know as soon as we get that in. So I guess the next order of business is to let you know I got my T-shirts in from the Patriot Patch Company.
Me too. I actually got a sticker thrown in with mine too. I got it right here. Yeah, I got an FRN sticker. Look at that.
They didn't give me a sticker. They gave me a patch. I'll have to talk to those guys about that. You see here, all I got was this patch. Oh wow.
Nice.
But
yeah, over at patriotpatch.co, that's where they got everything listed. Sounds like the first round of patch orders came in, got shipped out. You've obviously been enjoying your Huckleberry patch.
Oh yeah.
This month, it looks like the next pre-order is the In God We Trust patch. So you can order that up for when it comes in, or get the stuff that's already in inventory, and I'm sure Jake will get it right out to you as quick as he can.
Now, I have to tell you, I have a Saturday ritual with my family. We go out to breakfast, and the other day I wore my newest Patriot Patch T-shirt, and they just got a real kick out of it. Typically, the waitresses will wear a T-shirt that says, God bless our soldiers, especially our snipers. And I walked in with a T-shirt that said, rock, paper, scissors, buckshot. So I think that's just an awesome T-shirt.
Nice. Yeah, I like those LaRue shirts.
All right. So I guess tonight, why don't we turn to our main topic? So, low profile AR carrying cases, discrete carrying cases, it really is all about one central theme, which is how to carry around what is essentially, in most people's eyes, those uninitiated, a scary weapon. Now,
with a shoulder thing that goes up.
Yeah. And honestly, most of the carry cases that are available look like military hardware. So you're not being all that discreet when you're carrying one. So, I think it's worth talking about what some of the options are to kind of tone down what it is so you can carry it and not have one of these nutty, we'll call it cops, even though it's okay and legal to carry something, from point A to point B, so that they'll just harass you because we're just idiots.
Right. So there's a couple different kind of reasons for concealing, whether you're concerned with not scaring people and hurting people's feelings, and you're really one of those guys that likes to be politically correct all the time. There's that side of it. There's also the side of it where maybe you live in maybe a little less scrupulous neighborhood, and if somebody saw you walking back and forth to your car with rifle cases, then maybe when you were off at work and those rifle cases were inside the house, they might go collect a couple for themselves.
Yeah, but you can have the tactical cat for those guys, right?
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Well, I think there's the third consideration, which is when you just want to be hassled. Who wants to have to worry about someone giving you grief?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And sometimes discretion is the better part of valor.
And I think there's another point that some of these bags that we've listed address, and it's while it's even in your car, someone, even if they saw it, they wouldn't necessarily know it was a rifle case. They might assume it's something else that maybe they're not so interested in. So we can get into that too.
Sure. Well, why don't we start out the first one here you got?
Yeah, this one is probably one of the first kind of smaller discrete cases that I picked up. It's from Blackhawk. It's their diversion racket bag, and it looks just like a tennis racket case. I got a photo in the show notes here, and I've also got it sitting next to me. I've got the red one. It's a very athletic looking bag, bright red with a couple white stripes across it, and it's got a zipper that runs across the top, shoulder strap. It looks just like a racket case that you would have your tennis rackets in. But once you open it up, you can see there's room. I've got a 11.5-inch SBR fully assembled, just dropped right in there. It's got a red dot, it's got a light and a laser. So there's room to actually put a full-on rifle all put together inside of the case. It's got a divider down the middle, so if you wanted to have a full-length rifle inside of it, you could break the upper from the lower and kind of put one on either side. They wouldn't be banging against each other and scratching. And it's actually all covered in loop inside, so you could either stick some Patriot patches in there or maybe some mag holders, something that has the hook Velcro on the back of it would stick real nice to hold some magazines or earplugs or spare ammo, something like that. And it's not going to be bouncing around in there.
I've got to tell you that really when it comes down to the external look, that is about as innocuous as you can get. I mean, you're just not going to look at that and think, hey, wait a minute, that's my next gun. Let me break the window and pull that out.
Right.
I don't think, I mean, a violin case is, the kind of the tried and true cliche. And honestly, I think most people would steal a violin hoping that it's either a violin or a gun. But this, I mean, I think it really just kind of hits that, the whole point of hide it in plain sight and nobody will care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think there's something to be said for, hey, there's some pretty expensive tennis rackets out there too that somebody might want to pawn. So maybe not the thing to leave right on your passenger seat when you're out doing your shopping, but especially for walking to and from the car, I think it's one of the best options out there. I mean, unless you're all head to toe in multicam and you got your plate carrier on for the drive over to the range, I think people are just going to be thinking that this is probably just a tennis racket or two.
But, I am going to point something out. Pretty much anybody in the socioeconomic strata that is likely to make a career out of breaking into cars is not going to be the guy that will walk into a pawn shop and pass himself off as a tennis player or a country club member. I'm just saying that's a dead giveaway.
I'm not gonna comment on that.
I'm just saying.
Okay.
So
I guess one point that comes out of that, like I mentioned, is, okay, do you want to carry your rifle put together or broken apart into the upper and lower? The advantage of breaking it apart would be that you could really squeeze down the size of that case. It doesn't have to be long. It can be shorter, maybe a little bit wider. So that's kind of an advantage if you've got a longer gun. Obviously, if you've got an SBR, there's a potential for leaving it all together and ready to rock, whether there's a magazine in the gun, whether that's allowed in your state, whether the magazines are separate, kind of on the other side of the divider. So I like to have, if it's a gun that's in the car like that, I like to have it put together. If I'm going to be carrying it in the car on a regular basis. If this is just a bag for taking it to the range, then maybe I'll put a bigger rifle in it and break it down, and I got time to put it back together when I get to the range.
Let me ask you a question, just kind of in terms of philosophy. Are you a kind of a go bag, have it ready, always leave it in the car kind of, mindset?
Mm-hmm.
Or, because, here's my concern. My concern is that it being always in the car means there's a higher risk that if there ever is a casual break-in, it's going to get stolen.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I insure everything. So,
sure.
And if somebody breaks in and takes it, I'm sure there's a lot of paperwork I got to do, especially with the NFA goodies.
Right.
But
and then, that's not really the concern.
It's there when I need it.
It's that level of preparedness at any given moment. I mean, if a pistol is how you fight to the rifle, then, having a pistol at hand so that you can get to a rifle, sure, I get that. But do you always need the rifle also? And then, how do you function in a day-to-day sense with it? I just have never really...
I've never thrown the racket case over my shoulder when I go in to do my shopping, per se. It stays out in the car. But it's definitely something I like to have with me in the car. Unless, like today, I'm driving to a state that's not so friendly about stuff like that, and I have to go through my car before I pull out in the morning and make sure I didn't forget any scary high-capacity magazines in any of my cup holders.
Well, I think the question I always have is when, you do have, a mini collection of stamps inside the bag, what level of comfort do you have? Because you're right, you've got an extra level of, discourse with the ATF if one of those shows up missing. So, I mean, I'm more likely to carry something that isn't carrying an NFA stamp, but then at that point, it's not quite as ready because it's obviously much longer.
For sure.
So I just haven't wrapped my own
And I know we've talked about like car carry on previous shows. We've discussed there's different ways to lock things up, whether it's
Right.
discreetly, whether it's just a full-on gun rack in the back window that everything's locked to. There's some options for securing things in the car. Um, in this case, we're kind of focusing on more of the discreet option to
Yeah.
more hide it in plain sight. And so,
Well, and I
yeah,
think that's
I think the racket bag is a great option. It's somewhere around $70. I think I got mine for sale from Optics Planet at one point, but it's been great.
And you said it's a Blackhawk product.
Yeah. hmm
Okay.
So
And
there's local gun stores, depending on how big their kind of nylon supplies are. That they've probably got one or two hanging on the rack there.
all right, so you got another choice up here after that. Let's talk about what that looks like. Oh, excuse me, what that looks like.
So probably not going to run into this one. I had a tough time finding a link to be able to pull a photo. This is a pack insert that was a collaboration between a company called Two Vets Arms and LBT, London Bridge Training. LBT does a ton of tactical nylon for the military, plate carriers, magazine pouches, a lot of bags. So like deployment bags, big wheeled bags that you put all your gear in and you ship over overseas with it. They had a sale on one of those bags, and it came with this M4 pack insert. I thought it was kind of cool. It's got all loop on the inside. It's more of a rectangular, very flat case, and it's got a zipper that runs all the way around three sides of it. One of the pieces that they put inside on that loop is an M4 attachment device. So it's got kind of a long strip of nylon with a few Velcro loops inside of it that will wrap around your gun. So the upper, when it's pulled off of the gun, won't rattle around the case at all. It'll hold it in one spot. The one I've got here, I've got my MP5 inside of it, and so when I open it, I can actually hold it vertical like this, and the MP5 is not going anywhere because it's secured with those straps. So it's a real...
I see a new paint job on that MP5 there.
Yeah, I couldn't resist. I was cleaning it the other day, and I decided, you know what? We'll give it a paint job. But yeah, you'll see it's secured here with just these two pieces of Velcro, and same thing as the Blackhawk bag. It's all loop inside, so you can put mag holders inside. This one's just got like a bag that I have all my suppressor accessories and some what do you call that? Well, I don't want to get into the lube debate right now, but just, there's some lube in there. So I really like that. This, when you close it up, I'm not really sure what it looks like, if it really reminds you of anything. This one is just in Coyote FDE. They had it in a couple of different colors. I've seen them on eBay in mass gray. It's almost like an instrument case of some sort, maybe like a mini keyboard case for somebody who does DJing. Mm-hmm. Doesn't look super tactical unless, of course, you get Cryptech, like the photo I posted. It's been great. I've had it for a while now, and between broken down AR uppers and the MP5, it's just been great for that little tiny bag. I can throw a bunch of mags inside, throw it in the back of the car, and it's pretty simple, but I've loved it.
Now, let me ask you a question. From the picture, and you said it's an insert. Does it have a carry handle, straps, anything like that?
Mine just has a carry handle on one end of it. The one that I posted, I think there's an insert, and there's also a backpack that the insert slides into.
Okay.
So the backpack itself has straps and everything.
Yeah, I did notice that. So as far as when you get that loaded up, does it have kind of the same approach to securing the straps as, like, say, the Blackhawk bag or some of our other options later on in the show have? Do you think it's got that sturdiness of construction?
It's a lot floppier than the racket bag. The racket bag is, I'm not sure what material is inside of it, but it's pretty rigid. It'll stand on its side. This one, it kind of wants to lay down on the side. Otherwise, things will all kind of fall down to the bottom of it or whatever. It just kind of takes the form of whatever's inside of it.
Okay. So when you compare the two, do you have a preference?
I like the capacity of this pack insert, but it's not quite so undercover necessarily. The racket bag feels a little bit tighter because it has that curve to it,
Right.
and it doesn't kind of expand as much laterally. But it's definitely, I mean, it looks like a racket bag rather than some sort of piece of tactical nylon.
Right. Well, so, the next choice is something that I struggled with trying to find a bag, and our last discussion point will be something I think that really bridges the gap for me. But, here's kind of an intermediate bag. I started looking, started trying to evaluate what I wanted in a bag, and really there's not a whole lot of options unless it comes camouflaged with, straps and a whole bunch of, tactical accessories and hook and loop. But I found these Pilates mat bags on the internet, and really in terms of what I need, they're ideal. They provide an easy way to basically store an SBR in something that nobody will look twice at, anywhere in, the left-leaning world, and they'll never know any different. And, I put one in the show notes that, has some appropriate swooshy writing, and looks like you'd find it in a yoga place or something like that. But
Something with incense.
Oh yeah,
Place where
here's
there's a lot of
my
incense burning. Oh wow,
yoga
what's
mats.
yours have
Yeah.
on it, Reed?
And it has nothing. It's all black.
We could embroider it with something.
I know. I'm gonna embroider with the coexist symbols. Let's all just coexist. I saw one that was coexist, and you know what it had? It had Colt and another, I can't remember. Thompson was one of it. It was a whole bunch of
Manufacturer logos.
yeah, coexist. Yeah, that's right. But it has a big zip pouch, and it's real floppy. It doesn't have any form to it at all. It wads up into a little bag. But if you've ever, I don't know, JW, does your wife do Pilates or yoga or any of that stuff?
Not so much.
So those yoga things, the mats, they roll up into this little tight roll and fit in the bag. Well, the darn things never uncurl. I mean, I'm telling you, you go to a yard sale, you buy one of those curled up yoga mats, and you cut the last, whatever circumference it is you need to fit the interior of the bag, and you've got a rigid exterior, and you just kind of sandwich your rifle in the middle.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's just you're gonna see exactly what's in that bag because it's so floppy. But yeah, you just throw maybe a foot of yoga mat
Curled
in there.
up yoga mat. Mm-hmm. And it's hard, it's rigid. That mat's, it's not neoprene, it's something far more rigid than that.
And when you set your gun down, it's not going to scratch on anything because it's got a nice foam exterior.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, honestly, I don't think anybody would look at a yoga bag with with the outline of a yoga mat on the inside and think, two rips about it. So, talk about discretion. I think there's some Discrete there.
Yeah. Depending on what you embroider on the outside, you could really get away with a lot.
And, here's the thing about it. $20.
Yeah.
It's a good, durable piece of nylon or canvas. You don't need anything that you can, shoot into orbit and have it, descend on its own. So you don't need to have that much engineering in it. And frankly, before that had wore out, I will have gotten more than $20 worth of use out of it.
Yep,
So
for sure.
I think that that's just a nice, low key, under the radar, inexpensive carry option.
Yep.
And then you get to freak out your hippie buddies by pulling out your AR.
Now, on the other end of the spectrum, this is something we were talking the other day, and it turns out we both hopped on this little pre-order, almost like a Kickstarter sort of thing, from Critical Precision. So Alex had posted on some of the different forums online looking for interest in made in America, real high-end rifle bag that you can break down. Similar idea, break down a full-length rifle or just ride SBRs inside of it. It actually just shipped. I got mine a couple days ago. Haven't really dug into it too much, but I had the MP5 and the SBR next to each other. Tried that. That fit great. Right now I've got a 14.5-inch pinned welded upper lower, one on either side. They're both real comfortable in there. Plenty of room for extra magazines, suppressors, cleaning kits. And this sucker, I mean, it looks nice. It's like a what is that material? It's like a duck canvas, sort of waxed canvas exterior. It's blue, real nice navy blue, and it's got these great leather carry handles. There's
your
thick webbing.
The camera doesn't do it any justice. It's an incredibly, it's a really nice looking bag.
Yep, you've got gold hardware with the swivels for the carry strap. That's real nice, flexible webbing. To open it up, there's like a pull strap for these dual zippers. So you just pull it to the rear here, and it opens right up. And on the top flap, you got all these zippered compartments for accessories or maybe small magazines, pistol mags. And like on the other one, like I was saying, there's a divider in the middle, so you can keep your upper from banging against your lower. Plenty of room here for basically 16-inch gun with an optic and all that. And a bunch of cushioning between the two. So this is definitely the higher end option. He cut a pretty good deal for those of us that wanted to hop on the first round. Nowadays, I think he's looking for another round to continue to sell the product here, and it's a little over $300. But this is just a fantastic, real high-end bag. If you've got a Mercedes, you're pulling up to the country club and you're popping the trunk and pulling your golf bags out, this bag in the back there would not look out of place in the least bit.
No, not at all.
Yeah. So
now nobody would understand what the bag's for. I don't know how you would explain it away. I mean, JW, you're really kind of a photography buff.
Yeah, I mean, it looks a lot
look
like one of those kind of big production style cameras.
Okay.
Could fit in there.
What about a tripod?
It's a little short for a tripod, but you could see something like that. It'd have to be a real nice tripod to deserve a bag like that.
So, I mean, I think JW and I both looked at this bag and really were impressed with his vision of what the bag should be. And, I think it came out even better because I don't think he had anticipated having the leather on it. But
no, not at all. And he was really wanting to do something that was made all here in America. It wasn't. Yeah, he could have sent his design overseas and got something back, but he wanted to be all made here with U.S. materials, and so that's what you're paying for.
Absolutely, I think that's commendable.
Mm-hmm.
So I really think it's a good buy. Obviously, I do think that in terms of the idea of discrete carry, everybody has a different opinion about what that looks like. But I think this is the kind of the Mercedes or the Bentley end of discrete carry here.
Yeah, I don't think this would look out of place sitting somewhere in your office either.
Well, that may very well be where mine is. So when it comes to discrete carry, what are your thoughts of just basic improvisation?
I think definitely if you are breaking your rifle apart, or if it's just to go back and forth to the range, you can really get creative with things. If it's something that you are wanting to be able to open and just put right into action quickly, or maybe you've got a magazine in, it's like in cruiser ready sort of status.
Mhm.
I'd want to think a little bit more about safety features and accessibility, making sure that you can just kind of grab the bag, rip it right open, get to what you need to get at. More of those considerations would come into play if this was the gun that you're grabbing in a hurry.
And I think when you bring in the word discrete, you really cast aside some notions of the immediacy of access. I mean, obviously, if it's discrete, you're trying to be careful about its presentation, so it doesn't look like a 42-inch gun case. It doesn't look like some of the other things that are out there, and I think that it's a part of managing expectations. All of these cases, I think, by and large, are very short. I mean, realistically, if you want to have a rifle at the ready, you're probably looking at an SBR or an AR pistol. Would you tend to agree with that?
Yeah, and I think the AR pistol is a great idea as well, for basically the same exact length as any of these SBRs. And hey, it's a pistol, and if you've got your license to carry, then you could probably carry your pistol loaded. So, I mean, there's some thoughts that go into that.
Yeah.
Obviously, you don't want to leave something chambered if you got a floating firing pin bouncing around the back of your trunk. But leaving it in cruiser ready, having the magazine right there, is a lot easier than having to keep all the ammunition separate from the rifle, and there's all sorts of rules. So obviously, check your local laws.
Macy,
But
I wouldn't know anything about that because in Texas, our car is an extension of our home. We even have a castle doctrine for our cars.
yeah, well, you can't carry in a bar, so go Pennsylvania.
I can't carry in a restaurant that serves alcohol.
Yeah. Yeah. So, any final thoughts from you about the whole discrete carry thing?
I think the only really issue with the discrete carry is that you have to kind of measure that readiness expectation against, how discrete can I be? If you're going to carry around a 20-inch rifle and you want to be discreet, you might end up having to break it down in some of these bags. And while it is discreet at that point, it's not all that at the ready. And I think that's the only thing that you have to really keep in mind. And we're not talking about what is the best way to secrete a rifle in your car, what's the best way to have a rifle ready. It's I'm walking through a town and I don't want anybody to think I'm carrying a rifle. Well, that's really, I think, all that discrete means. Wouldn't you?
Yeah, or you live in an apartment building, something like that. You go to the range all the time.
Yeah.
It's a good way to move things from point A to point B without attracting a lot of attention. And there's a lot of options out there. And it seems like guys like the crew at Critical Precision are thinking about that and bringing more options to the table for all different levels of lifestyles and carrying situations.
Well, I think that pretty much wraps it up.
Yeah.
Do you have any final thoughts? I think you're probably a little more steeped in the higher quality. I mean, I've got my $20 discrete carry bag, but you got some real solid gear here. Do you have any final thoughts?
No, I mean, I've got all these rifles sitting here. I better bring one back out to the car with me when I head out in the morning.
Well, let's move on to our Otis Technology giveaway. And, of course, last week was a running domino effect of life just happening to all three of us at the same time. I know James had a big drive for his radio station, and I know JW, you had the horrible circumstance of getting to go where you went.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I've got a house full of contractors, so it just kind of, the rails came off, the wheels came off, everything went off. So we apologize for that, but we're back on track. But so last week's winner for the Otis Technology drawing was Joseph Dowdy. Joseph D. We'll get in touch with you, Joseph D. Just to let you know that we're talking about you. And then the November 1st, the drawing for the week ending November 1st is going to Cheryl Green Fortis. I think that's how I'm going to pronounce that name.
Perfect.
But we want to remind you that the fine folks at Otis Technology sent over what was once a mountain of rifle maintenance tools and is now dwindling into almost nothing. We've had some AR-15 and AR-10 gear, and we've been giving it away to a bunch of lucky winners for the last several months, and we only just have, I think it's about 8 more drawings left. So just keep watching for the posts on Facebook, and we're going to be giving away at least one more MSR cleaning kit. Then during the middle of December, we'll be giving away an Otis Technology Elite cleaning system. So, guys, stay tuned, stay in touch, and we've had a couple of winners who are so backlogged in shows that they took them 3 or 4 weeks to figure out that they'd won something. So keep checking the podcast, guys. Keep checking the Facebook. All right. Well, so guys, are we going to have a changing of the guard?
I think so.
Yep.
All right.
Been a long day for me. I think I'm going to tap out and let JD help you out here with some feedback.
All right. Well, JW, thank you. We'll talk to you next week.
All right. Have a good one, guys. Talk to you later.
Take care.
James, how are you doing today?
I'm all right, Reed. It's those dominoes are still falling a little bit.
Well, we're trying to get them all wrapped up. So I hope things are going well. You feel like getting into some feedback with me?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
We got Tim here up first. After last week's podcast, I realized I should consider changing my home defense 5.56 ammo. I was using 45 grain hollow point rodent ammo because I did not think my 1-9 twist barrel could handle 62 grains. I guess I thought my barrel would explode or something. I will now consider higher grain home defense ammo. Thank you, JW, as a respond to the webpage comment.
I think that this is always one of those things that you just have to kind of sort out on your own and figure out where your comfort level is. As many guys as out there have an opinion, there are probably just as many people that have got it wrong. So don't stop paying attention and catching up. But, Tim, I hope our next piece of feedback will give you another angle on your thoughts there, maybe one that'll change your mind once again. And this comes from Michael C., a listener of the show who decided to join the Firearms Radio Network and become a podcaster himself. And Michael C. And I have actually met in Vegas. He's a great guy. I really respect the man. And here's what he said. So he said, I finished listening to the episode regarding an AR for home defense 20 years ago. My department did a huge practice study of the best bullet for the AR. He said this test came about because of the need to start deploying rifles with patrol deputies. He says, let's see. Prior to that, the rifles were kept in the station armory or in the sergeant car, which I'm assuming was, the duty commanding officer. He says there were a few exceptions, such as our SWAT weapons teams and deputies working in rural areas. So 15 years ago, our special weapons teams changed from the 9mm H7K MP5 to the MP4. And he said executives who know nothing about weapons, ammunition, or police work for that matter were concerned that using a rifle in an urban environment, that the bullet would go through buildings and ricochet and kill everyone on the block. So after a bunch of tests that included shooting an actual house through drywall, insulated and uninsulated, stucco, bricks, vehicles, glass, he says, we found the best bullet to use in a house and urban environment. He says, now we also had to look at a bullet that was accurate out to 200 yards and it was capable of taking down a man. He says, FYI, the longest shot taken by a sniper rifle with a 308 was 125 yards, and the longest for a 223 was 75 yards. So I'm assuming that's one of their SWAT snipers in the line of duty.
Yeah.
So he says the bullet we found worked the best, and this is his editorial. Drum roll, he says. 55 grain soft point. And I was at first I was a little shocked with that, but then I don't doubt that at all. But he goes on to say, yes, that is correct. Plain old across the counter, nothing special, 55 grain soft point. The same thing you could use on coyotes or small animals. He says when the bullet hit drywall, it begins to mushroom, break apart, and when it hit the second sheet of drywall, it spreads into shrapnel, which essentially eliminates the bulk of its force. He says the effect is much less if there is insulation in the walls. The bullet was stopped by stucco. He says, interestingly enough, the 22 long rifle penetrated more than the 223. He says, you haven't talked much about it, but bullet design plays a large part in bullet performance. And everyone is so worried about open tip match, steel core, and heavyweights, everyone forgets about the humble soft point. So he says, on a side note, comparing a 20-inch to a 14.5-inch barrel, performance is virtually the same out to 200 yards. He says he shot 7-inch pistol out to 200 yards and hit steel. The pistol has an aim point, and he stuck a bipod on it for his test. Goes on to say, keep up the good work, and he hopes he can start punching out shows again real soon. We sure hope so as well, Mike. Thank you very much. So, guys, I guess that's really kind of an interesting perspective, and I would tend to say that that's probably a pretty good self-defense round. 55 grain soft point, I think, is probably going to do a number on pretty much anything that you have in your house, and I don't think that you're going to have the kind of over-penetration issues that you might be worried about.
That's good information, Michael.
All right. So
next,
you take the next one, James.
All right. Next up, Josh from Henderson, Nevada says, hello, Reed and friends. I just wanted to thank you for the awesome podcast you guys put out every week. I'm also glad that James is now on the show. I live right outside of Vegas as well, and hope some topics pertaining to being a shooter in the state of Nevada might be discussed at some point. I'm pretty sure we could do that for you, Josh. I still don't know how you guys come up with the show topics every week, so here's one that I'd like to suggest that pertains to our favorite black rifle. Maybe every week you could highlight a new product that has recently come out. For example, even though I have adopted the KeyMod interface, I see that a company called Kinetic has come out with a new way to attach rail sections to an M-LOK handguard that is really kind of slick looking. Thanks for the great show, guys. As for shooting in Nevada, right now is the best time in the world because when everywhere else is covered in snow, Reed, we're actually in the 60s. So it's beautiful shooting weather out here right now. As for the new products, it seems like, Reed, more and more stuff's coming up as we lead up to SHOT Show here, and that's something we could take a look at.
Absolutely. Well, we've had various, what would you call them? Show elements. And at one point, we did a training tip of the week. We've done a product of the week. And, it's always fun to delve into those. But, of course, I think some folks find it dull after a while. So, maybe we'll kind of spin it around a monthly rotation. And 1 week it's a product, 1 week it's a training tip, 1 week it's, what interesting thing that JW got to do that the rest of us, with children didn't. We live vicariously through JW. But I almost virtually guarantee you the minute that he and his wife start having children, it'll all change.
And that's when you and I will start laughing.
Yeah. I think that's a great idea. We'll start trying to implement some rotating elements to the show, some pieces or spots or whatever you call them. I'll rely on our radio guy James here to let us know.
Will do.
So Shane writes in, says, I'm a listener of your AR-15 podcast as well. I was a big fan of what you guys do. I would appreciate it if you would have Andy from ZQI Ammo on your show. They have excellent ammo at reasonable prices. Now they have a direct buy program. He says, many of your listeners know about the ZQI ammo from Walmart. He says, what many listeners may not know is that ZQI has rebranded some of its ammo under the Guardian name, as well as added a new line of ammo from Israel from IMI Independence brand. So ZQI also has a sister company called Zenith Firearms that some of your listeners would care to know about. I appreciate all that you guys do with the AR-15 podcast and the FRN. He says, thanks for your time. Shane, we'll reach out and we'll see if we can get Andy to come on. Of course, that's at Andy's discretion. So please don't hold that against us if we're not able to pull in any heavyweights, but we'll do our best. But thanks for listening and thanks for writing in, Shane.
The next feedback from Casey. He says, keep the podcast coming. I was looking at 2 barrels for my build. One has chrome bore and the other does not. Is it more important to have one with chrome over the one that doesn't? Thanks again. Reed, I'm going to jump into your infinite wisdom on this one.
Well, here's the thing. I think the biggest issue is what is the non-chrome barrel. If it were a nitrided barrel, then I would say it's, they're all in the same family. Either one would be fine because either one of them has something in the barrel that's going to assist with corrosion and wear and some of those things. Can a rifle work without chrome? Absolutely. No worries whatsoever. My general impression as far as chrome in terms of what it adds to a barrel is just that it's going to add durability and corrosion resistance. I think that when we're talking about most people's barrels, they're not going to abuse them the way the average trigger monkey does in the military. Being a former trigger monkey, I can tell you we were not gentle with our rifles. And so, I really think that that's the chief purpose. I think that there are probably some other elements that people would plead or beneficial in the application of the chrome. Everybody has their opinions on that matter. So I would just say that it's really up to you. If it is not chromed and does not have a corrosion resistant coating of some sort, you're just going to have to be more mindful of the things that would cause corrosion and prevent them. And I think really that's all it comes down to, Casey. Now, of course, Casey wrote us, I think, 2 pieces of feedback in a week. So we'll touch on his second one here. So once again, I enjoy reading where they tell me I do a good job. So Casey says, enjoy the podcast, download as many podcasts as I can. And he needs some advice. He has a Magpul mil-spec MOE stock on a mil-spec buffer tube. He says the stock has a lot of movement and makes a lot of noise on the rifle. Do you have any thoughts on how to fix this problem short of replacing the stock? Well, and I thought about this, and my recollection is that the Magpul MOE stock has basically a lock on it that prevents it from rattling. And so we're going to just pull up the Magpul website while you guys wonder why I'm surfing in the middle of a show. And I'm going to just see what it has to say about the buttstocks in the MOE category. Oh no, I think I'm wrong. Yeah, it's the CTR carbine stock that has the lock, and that's what I have on my rifle. You know, I tell you, Casey, you're going to face the same problems whether it's with a Magpul stock or a standard M4 stock. Probably a wide variety of just collapsible stocks that suffer from the same issue. And so I don't know that there's anything you can do. Um, the Magpul line being what it is, I know you don't want to replace the stock, but going from the MOE to the CTR is, about $20 difference. So you might want to think about that. And then I guess the only next best thing is, copious amounts of duct tape or, things that you can, wrap on your buffer tube. But really, those are not going to allow you to use the, collapsible stock the way it's intended. So I just don't know of a way to fix the problem other than upgrading. So sorry for the bad news, Casey. Hopefully the first one makes up for it. He did go on to say, would it be possible for you to do a podcast about the different gas tube lengths and the pros and cons of these gas tube lengths? I think we can definitely put that in the queue. I think we've had a lot of listener feedback in the last 2 or 3 months that have really added a good slew of in the queue podcasts. So we may very well be able to close out the year with what you guys have helped us with. He says, thanks again and keep the podcast coming. Well, Casey, we intend to. Thanks for listening. Thanks for contributing and writing in.
Well, So instant feedback real quick, Reed, from the Facebook page. Mike Kyle is listening right now and watching on the YouTube channel there. He says, you guys have faces for podcasting. Great show, guys. I'm watching and listening. Thanks, Mike. We appreciate your feedback.
Well, that's why I chose podcasting. It was Jake's fault that you're being subjected to all of this YouTube hoot and any stuff. So you can write him a hateful email about the pain we've had to unleash upon our listening public. So,
hey, Reed, I also, real quick, before we get into our contact stuff,
sure.
I wanted to share that I just checked for the Vortex Spitfire 3x Prism Scope. We have 34 entries in right there for a nominate a veteran right now. So there is space for you, and we'll be going until the 11th, right, Reed?
Is yes. That what I'm understanding? Let me clarify. We'll be drawing the 11th. So anything that makes it into this show before the 11th. So I guess that's 11:59 on the 10th will be a valid entry. And unfortunately, we will have to pass on anything that comes in after that, but we will certainly put those in the running for a first responder drawing if your veteran is now a first responder. And, I've noticed a theme that many of the men and women that have served in the military go on to serve in their communities as first responders, which I think is an admirable thing. So I think there you go. Am I clarified enough, you think, James?
I think that's clear as mud, but we got it.
Okay.
All right. If you have any questions or comments, feedback at AR15podcast.com. Like Reed was saying, your guys' feedback, your questions, your show suggestions really have kind of taken the bull by the horns the last couple of months. We've got some great show topics coming up because you guys are giving us the feedback. So let us know. Feedback at AR15podcast.com. You can also send us a recorded voicemail by using the SpeakPipe plugin on the right-hand side of the AR-15 podcast website. Subscribe and listen to the AR-15 podcast for free on iTunes or on Stitcher, and leave us a review. Also, the more it gets reviewed, the higher it gets placed in searches, and it comes up quicker. Share your pics with us on Instagram at AR-15 podcast. Tag your pictures with AR-15 podcast. You can also check us out over on Periscope. We live vicariously through JW when he's out and about, and he does some quick videos when he's got something cool going on. You can also check out our YouTube page, youtube.com/AR15 podcast. Follow us on Facebook. Try to keep current and get to your questions real quick over there, facebook.com/AR15 podcast. Check out all the other great podcasts on the Firearms Radio Network. I was listening to This Week in Guns and Gun Guy Radio this afternoon at work. Really interesting topics and great podcasts to kind of go along with the FRN network. And also, don't forget to use the Brownells affiliate link for all your AR-15 podcast needs or your parts needs. You can find that link at AR-15 podcast/parts. Use the Amazon affiliate links on firearmsradio.tv and AR-15podcast.com. And that's about it. Another great show on the low-profile AR carrying cases. I was kind of listening in the background while you guys were talking. Great information. And now I got to figure out which one I'm going to buy, Reed.
Well, you know what? I think you ought to go up on Facebook and ask the listeners what they like to use for discrete carrying. Let's see if we can expand some of these options with some novel choices.
Absolutely. We'll throw that up there tomorrow morning.
Well, everybody, thanks again for listening. We appreciate you. And we'll be back next week. Hopefully, we'll have put the tracks in order and the wheels back on the train. All right. Have a good night, guys.
Take care.
This has been a production of the Firearms Radio Network. You can find more information at firearmsradio.tv.